Okay, well, good morning. Thank you so much to Susan and AIM for inviting me to share our work with you today. Okay, great. We are developing an educational app for adolescents. Generally, right now, we're focusing on the 14 to 20 year age group. And this is part of a larger program that we have called Its Core, or Interactive Technology for Skin, Community Outreach, Research, and Education. And that program is kind of an overall STEM education program where we've been working a lot with different school districts around San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, and Oakland, as well as Boys and Girls Club of California. But this is sort of a sub-project of that, which is our Sun Safety Augmented Reality app for melanoma education and primary prevention. And our mission is to develop innovative, immersive educational activities to reduce the incidence of melanoma in adulthood, and also improve survival through early detection. So as you've already been hearing about, the primary prevention and preventing sunburns and increasing awareness and education about sun protection early in life is one of the best things that we can do to prevent sun-induced melanoma. And teens who acquire 5 or more sunburns have a significantly increased risk of developing skin cancer and melanoma. We did some qualitative work last year with Alondra Valencia, who was interviewing caregivers. And one thing that she learned, and that's also been shown in the literature, is that another really great aspect of this educating teens is that we might also be able to educate their parents, because it turns out most parents will do things to kind of role model good behavior and healthy behaviors for their kids. And so they might put on sunscreen or do sun safety practices in the hope that their kids will as well. So there's kind of a double back and forth with this as well. And so public health interventions for children may be a really good strategy to impact melanoma prevention. And we're developing, I'm going to tell you, my talk today is going to be about our process and how we're going about developing these tools and this app. And we really want to develop effective, targeted primary prevention tailored to the learning needs of this younger age group. And we know that they kind of learn differently and different things appeal to them than maybe just a handout or, a lecture or something like that. And so we really want to make this a lot more fun for them to bring them in. And studies have shown that visualizing the impact of health choices can positively influence learning and behavior change. So that can be with different apps or different tools that kind of demonstrate so that kids can visualize what is happening when I get UV radiation on my skin. How is that damaging my skin? And I'll show you a bit later, but they really actually were excited about seeing skin cells under the microscope in this 3D world. And so this is this picture with the skin. This is kind of it's what we call solar elastosis, but it's rather than having these nice pink healthy fibers in the skin, they're kind of all these blue melted skin cells and fibers. And we're working with a really fun undergraduate student from Peru right now, who's bringing just wonderful ideas. So he's developing these animated characters, and they're going to be giving the lessons. And it's a lot of fun. This is one of his characters as well. This is Intio, the son, who's going to be teaching some of these lessons. But we know now that there's really a need for far-reaching educational platforms to raise awareness and educate on sun protection and melanoma awareness. And this is in the 14, as I mentioned, we're focusing on the 14 to 20-year-olds at this time. Our first application that we started developing is with a computer called Z-Space. And this is a technology, it's a computer that has a 3D technology. It's really, really neat. And anyone is welcome to come and visit us, and we could show it to you. But basically, it's like virtual reality, but you don't have to put on the goggles, which is kind of nice because then teens can be, like in a classroom environment, could be interacting with their teachers and their peers and not kind of closed off with the goggles. But you can move things in this 3D world, and it looks like it's in 3D hanging in front of you. It's really neat. And so they're fully immersed and engaged in this. They think it's really fun. And they also can dissect skin in this. So they can do little skin dissections and cut through it and take it apart and see all the different skin cells that way. One thing that we're trying to learn about through this process is how much to teach about recognizing melanoma. You just heard in the last talk from Albert about how you can also raise undue anxiety or concern. And so in this kind of sensitive age group, we're really focusing mainly on primary prevention, maybe just with just a little bit of information about how to recognize a skin cancer or a melanoma. Sorry, too far. And so this is kind of how our app works. We're going to have a couple different forms. One is on that zSpace computer, but then you need to have that specialized computer. And so we're also developing a model that's going to be usable on Android and iOS in like an iPad type of format with augmented reality filters. So this will be much more broadly accessible. And we're using AI to develop different personalized avatars. We're making this decision. We want to appeal to a wide range of kids, and we want them to be able to create avatars that look kind of like themselves, or just pick someone who they think would be fun to use in their virtual world. For privacy protection, right now we're not building it to have kids take a picture of themselves, but that's kind of why we're going with this AI-based model. And then they can do fun things like change the hairstyles and change the facial expressions and things. And then we have different prompts where they can spray on sunscreen to practice doing that, getting the ears, getting the neck, different areas they might forget. And then a reminder that it's time to reapply, and then they have to do it again to try to teach that technique. This is just a picture of the sun that's part of the 3D model, and they can watch little videos, which they love, and then they can also take this apart, and then they're learning about what is UV radiation, how does it affect the skin. And this is another part of the app where they can have a mannequin where they can put on different hats, different sunglasses, and they have a lot of fun dressing up the mannequin. Mm-hmm. And then this is demonstrating what I was mentioning about dissecting the skin. So here's where they can kind of learn about the different skin cells, learn about melanocytes, have a big part about melanin. We're very interested in reaching kids with different skin tones. And so you saw on the last slide that we kind of divide these skin tones into like type 1 and 2, which is really light, and then 3 and 4, which is kind of medium, and then 5 and 6, which is really dark. And we're going to create these personalized pathways in our educational app so that it could be like, if you have type 1 skin and are at very high risk of sun-induced melanoma, these are the messages that are important for you. And if you have very dark skin, then we're going to have a slightly different message. This is just an example of one of the avatars that a student might create, and then they could put on all the different hairstyles, which is fun. So in our pilot data, we tested, in our preliminary group, we tested our just kind of beta version of our app with about 35 students. And 90% did say that they thought augmented reality would be very helpful to teach about their skin health. And 92% said they will now think about protecting their skin from the sun after using the app. So that's just kind of a first step. They're going to think about it. That's a win. But future long-term goals would be like clinical trials, where they come back 3 months later and did they actually change their behavior to start protecting their skin more? So far, we've reached a wide range of students from different races and ethnicities and backgrounds. 96% of our participants reported speaking English. 35% also spoke Spanish, 6% spoke Mandarin, and 3% spoke Tagalog. So eventually, our goal is that we could also add different languages to our app. This is a slide demonstrating our results that I had mentioned earlier, just showing that we pretty much doubled the percentage of kids who would think about wearing a hat, wearing sunglasses, seeking the shade, and wearing sunscreen after using the app. And then when asked about how do you feel about using augmented reality, it was interesting because I think not as many kids are familiar with augmented reality. Kids are most familiar with virtual reality and wearing the goggles. So when we had kind of asked beforehand, which methods would you like to use most, videos, games, augmented reality, virtual reality, they all said they would prefer virtual reality. But after testing the augmented reality app, they did have an increased interest in using it and did say that they thought it could be very helpful. We also sought some qualitative feedback from our teen participants in terms of which parts of the app were most helpful. And they mentioned that visualizing, as I said before, visualizing the impact of sun damage on the skin was helpful. So really looking at it on a cellular level, especially in the high school age group. Practicing sun safety behaviors, like putting the sunglasses and the hats on, and then identifying the different layers of the skin. They really liked being able to take apart the skin and dissect the skin. When we asked them what suggestions they would like to make it more fun, they said they wanted more games. And so our student this summer is really doing a great job of coming up with all these fun ideas for mini games so that we could kind of give the educational message and then they can test their knowledge by playing different games. We've also talked to educators about, we heard earlier that there's really a lack of information in kind of K through 12 education about sun safety and skin cancer prevention and skin health. And so we're following the California Science Standards. We were collaborating with San Mateo County Office of Education on developing these. And we've been doing interviews with educators in middle and high school. And they said that they would really like to use these new technologies for their content in the classroom. So the impact of our app is that we are hoping that we can have it in school science and school health curriculum, that we can have it in after visit summaries for like the patient handouts that they get. There could be a link to the app, where you could download it on the App Store and then play the game at home, we hope. And that it will be free and publicly available to maximize the use of it. And I just want to thank all of the expertise and the depth of our experience at Stanford with Serge and Albert, Justin Chu, Wipeout Melanoma with Susan, Virtual Human Interaction Lab with Jeremy Ballinson, the Chariot Program with Tom Caruso, and then the Center to Support Excellence in Teaching with Janet Carlson and Preetha Menon. And so we are based at the Virtual Human Interaction Lab, and so you are definitely welcome to come test the app. Anyone can come set up a tour, and yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you to all the funding sources who supported our development.